All right, we want to welcome everyone. We're thrilled to have you join us tonight for this special webinar hosted by Sport Med Connect, where we bring leading experts in the field to support athlete health, wellness, and performance. So today's session is all about fueling athletes the right way. We have an outstanding speaker guest with us, Amy Goodson, a nationally recognized sports dietitian, speaker, and author of the Sports Nutrition Playbook. So I'll give a little bit more bio on her in a minute here, but she'll also share how you can access her information and all of her resources as well on her website, thesportsnutritionplaybook.com. So a few quick housekeeping items. Most of you should have come on the webinar on mute. Um, and we will have a dedicated question and answer session later on. So we'll have the chance to come off mute and ask questions. We also encourage you to ask questions during the webinar just on the chat feature. So we'll be monitoring that and you can leave your questions there. Before we begin, let me just briefly introduce myself. My name is Sean Garf. I am a sports medicine physician and CEO of Sport Med Connect. We work directly with clubs, teams, and gyms and organizations to provide professional level care to all athletes. Our partners have 24/7 access to sports medicine experts via text, phone, or video conferencing. And we've also established a network of highly qualified professionals who are used to working with athletes to take care of each of our members, just like Amy is doing tonight. So in short, we provide a full scope of professional sports medicine services to all our athletes, just like they will receive one day as Division One student athletes. Special thanks tonight for our sponsors and partners, AYG Basketball and Integrity Volleyball Club. We appreciate all of you who have joined us tonight from those clubs. So without further ado, let me introduce Amy. Amy Goodson is a registered dietitian and consultant in the Dallas-Fort Worth area with an emphasis in overall health, wellness, and sports nutrition. She has over 19 years of experience and has worked with numerous schools, colleges, and professional teams, including the Dallas Cowboys, Texas Rangers and their minor league affiliates, Texas Christian University Athletics, FC Dallas Soccer, and the NBA G League, and many PGA Tour players. She consults for Catalyst Training Lab, where she provides international education and training for dietitians in 5 Middle Eastern countries. She also speaks at a variety of nutrition, athletic training, and coaching conferences, in addition to providing health and nutrition presentations to various businesses and companies. As I mentioned before, she's the author of the Sports Nutrition Playbook, and she's spoken in over 1,600 media placements. She received her Bachelor of Science from TCU and her Master's of Science in Exercise and Sports Nutrition from TWU, Texas Women's University. On a personal level, Amy has been an amazing resource for our team and is very well respected in the field of sports medicine and nutrition. I mentioned the webinar tonight to a friend of mine, and he said, "Oh, I know Amy. She is world class, so you're lucky to have her." So without further ado, Amy, thank you so much for joining. I will stop my share and let you
All
take over.
right. We will swap sharing. Awesome. Hello to everyone. Great to be here tonight. All right. How are we doing? Can y'all see my slides? Perfect. Awesome. Well, I'm really excited to have everyone here to talk about fueling, training, and recovery and performance and all the things and everything in between. I know as parents, as coaches, you're probably always looking to what should I give them before a game, before a tournament, after? And in the world of nutrition and sports nutrition, oftentimes people are very well informed with misinformation, I like to say. And that can be a real challenge because parents are like, do they drink water? Do they drink a sports drink? Should they drink chocolate milk? Should they not? Do they eat carbs? Do they not? And there's so much misinformation floating around. So tonight, we really want to help you understand how to fuel training, performance, and recovery. So no matter what age your athlete is, as Sean said, I have worked Pee Wee to pro across most sports. And so really looking at applying sports nutrition in the most practical way to your athlete, no matter where they are, what stage or age they're in their sport. You should be able to take something home with you today. And so we definitely want to make this interactive. And as much as you might have questions for me, I'm going to have a few questions for you as well. So this is what we're going to be covering tonight. We're going to talk first through fueling the day, kind of highlighting fueling with macronutrients. Many of you probably know what those are, but we're going to look at them in relationship to sports nutrition, how we shape performance meals, and then really dial in on pre, during, and post workout competition, fueling, and hydration. Then towards the end, I will give you some fueling schedules. That's the real life of how do you make this all happen, and then talk to you a little bit about the services that we can offer you as well. So first things first, I would love to ask each of you, and you can either reply in the chat or feel free to just come off mute and let us know. I can't see everybody, so you'll just have to yell. But as a parent, as a coach, or if there's an athlete on here, what do you feel like is the biggest challenge when it comes to fueling your youth and teen athletes? Like I said, chime in, or Clint's going to help me in the chat as well.
All right. One of them is avoiding sugar, Amy.
Okay, avoiding sugar. Yeah. Anybody else? Like I said, feel free to just yell.
Avoiding processed everything.
Yeah, that's hard. Good luck to you on that. Good luck to you on that. See a few more popping up. Anybody else?
Eating right before the game, not hungry before an early game.
Yeah.
Taking in iron.
What was that one?
Iron intake.
Iron intake. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, those are all very common challenges, I would say, as we get going. Awesome. All right. So as we start to talk about fueling the day, when we talk about nutrition in general, I always like to tell athletes, parents, coaches, whoever it is, that while nutrition does not fix everything, it helps a lot of things. And when it comes to training, performance, and recovery, nutrition is really essential for providing the body with the energy that it needs to perform at the level we're asking athletes to train, practice, lift weights, all the different things that they're doing. But it's also helping with their mental acuity, their focus, going to school, doing their homework, helping strengthen their immune system. It helps with recovery. So not just building and repairing lean muscle mass. At this age, like the teen youth age, we're also talking about growth and development as it relates to bone health, muscle health, overall growth and development. Nutrition really plays a role in helping an athlete over the course of the day. We put a lot of focus on pre-workout or pre-game and post-game, but really trying to look at what we're doing for the athlete over the course of the day, trying to provide them with the best nutrition possible to fuel. It's not always going to be perfect. And I think as parents and as coaches, you just need to release that that's not going to happen. Oftentimes you're traveling, you might be in tournaments, you might be in a Suburban, find yourself in a drive-through lane. You know, when I worked for the Dallas Cowboys, the first game I ever went to was great. We were the opening game in New York on a Thursday night, and I thought it was gonna be so great and make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. It took me 3.5 hours to make 100 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. From then on, I was like, Uncrustables for everybody. So you do have to balance. I always say in sports nutrition, we're constantly balancing the best nutrition with the budget available within the environment and logistics that we're dealing with. And so I think that that's important to remember as we think through how we best fuel young athletes. So talking about our macronutrients, so carbohydrates, proteins, and fats are going to be our macronutrients. Carbohydrate, body's number one source of energy. It makes you run, jump, think, lift. You need carbohydrate to fuel activity. When we think about it from a workout or a training or a performance perspective, pre-workout carbohydrate is really designed to help give your body the energy that it needs to get to and through at least the beginning part of that workout. So we're trying to give more sustaining carbohydrates, oatmeal, whole grain bread, rice, pasta. That's going to help stick with that athlete. During a workout, we're all about simple sugars. We're going to talk more about that. And that is because simple sugar digests so quickly and it very easily can get into the bloodstream for the muscles to take up for energy. So when we talk about during exercise, those quick sports drinks and little sports chews and sports foods actually play a role to help provide the body with energy to really sustain activity. Then post-exercise, post-game, we're talking about carbohydrate to help replenish. So when you're running, jumping, lifting, you're burning energy, which means we need to go in and replace that energy. You store carbohydrate in your muscle and in your liver. It's called glycogen. But after a workout or game, you need to replace that, what you burned off, so that you're ready to go for the next workout or for the next game. So typically when we talk about carbohydrates, we're wanting athletes to eat more complex carbohydrates over the course of the day. Like I said, this is going to be any whole grain or whole grain product. Fruit is a carbohydrate. It's nutrient rich. It has fiber, vitamins, minerals, but it's sugar. And so it's a natural sugar, but it does provide the body with carbohydrate. Starchy vegetables like potatoes, sweet potatoes, peas, corn, and winter squash are going to provide some carbohydrate. And then the carbohydrate that you naturally find in milk or in yogurt. So these are what we're looking at over the course of the day. And then focusing on using what I like to call sports foods or sports drinks around, specifically around activity, pre, during, and post, for that quick digesting carbohydrate that can give that athlete a burst of energy to continue exercise or immediately post exercise to help really enhance a speedy recovery. We'll talk more about that in a minute. The next macronutrient that we have is protein. So protein is the slowest digesting macronutrient. Carbohydrate the fastest, protein the slowest. So we use protein in the world of sports. We think build lean muscle mass, repair lean muscle mass. From a digestion standpoint, we often think of putting carbohydrate and protein together because protein helps stabilize blood sugar. So this is very important pre-workout, pre-game, because we want an athlete to have a stable blood sugar, not a big high and then a big crash. So being able to provide a carbohydrate with a protein is really, really helpful for sustaining those energy levels before and then going into the game. During a workout, protein is really not our friend. During like normal play, running, soccer practice, basketball practice, volleyball practice, carbohydrate is really what you want. We don't really need protein, but post-workout, protein is king because protein is going to be what really enhances muscle resynthesis and really jumpstarts that process to help with recovery, which we'll talk more about. In the world of protein, we have animal proteins, which provide what we call complete proteins. Complete means that it has all the essential amino acids that your body cannot make. So think beef, pork, chicken, turkey, think fish, eggs, dairy foods like milk, cheese, and yogurt. And then we have plant proteins like beans, nuts, seeds, nut butters, that do provide some protein. Typically, they do not provide all of those essential amino acids. There is a select few that do. Soy foods, quinoa, some of the seeds, chia seeds, hemp seeds, a few of the grains, amaranth and whatnot. But typically we're looking at our animal proteins if you eat animal foods to try to provide the body with those essential amino acids. Can you eat plant-based and get your protein in? Yes. I just like to remind athletes they need to be more strategic about it, getting a variety of plant-based foods in so that they're able to get A, adequate protein, and B, all of the essential amino acids over the course of the day. Then when it comes to fat, so in the world of fat, it's more of a percentage base. We say that fat should take up about 20 to 35% of total calories with a higher focus on the good fats. So the good fats, or you might hear them called healthy fats or unsaturated fats, are going to be the ones that we're encouraging. They're going to be the ones that can contribute to decreasing inflammation. Those are going to be foods like nuts, seeds, nut butters, avocado, and if you're liquid cooking oils, olive oil, avocado oil, grapeseed oil, peanut oil, all of those little guys. And then, of course, we always focus on our omega-3 fatty acids. Those are really going to be found in fatty fish like salmon, trout, and tuna. Then you do find some in some plant foods like chia seed, really any seed, chia seed, pumpkin seed, hemp seeds, walnuts. The best sources, though, are going to be in those fatty fish. You get a little bit of omega-3 in eggs, egg yolks specifically. And I know you're all like, my kid's never eating salmon, trout, and tuna, or maybe they're not eating walnuts and chia seeds. So, I always encourage parents to offer these foods over and over again. I'm a food first kind of a gal, but over time, if they do not eat those foods, it can be important to supplement with an omega-3 fatty acid because we can't make them. And so that can be essential as your athletes are getting older, and I can answer questions more about that. Then our goal is to decrease saturated fat. Saturated fat, AKA, you'll hear it called bad fat. Note that I'm not saying never eat. I'm just saying decrease. So those are going to be kind of like the obvious ones that you love in the summer. And I mean, fried foods, pastries, dessert and ice cream by the pool, all of those types of foods, donuts. Typically, I say if it's battered and fried or it's sweet and creamy, it's probably a saturated fat. Typically, my rule with athletes, 80-20 rule. 80% of the time, focus on eating nutrient-rich foods, drinking water, getting your training in. 20% of the time, by all means, have some pizza and a milkshake. It's real life. We have to teach athletes how to make nutrition very real life so that the majority of the time they're focused on fueling and performance, but then there's always time for kind of just comfort foods and foods that you love that maybe we shouldn't eat every single day. I think that's a good way of helping athletes understand that. I treat hydration like a food group in the world of sports nutrition because it is so important. We know that just a 2% level of dehydration in the body can equate to about a 10% decrease in performance. And as dehydration gets worse, performance typically declines. Dehydration can have very bad effects on athletes. When it's hot and it's humid outside, like we are right now, I don't care if your athletes are indoors playing volleyball and basketball, it will be hot. They will sweat more indoors. And typically when it's hot and humid outside, they say sweat rate really can increase. Research suggests about 10 to 20%. So you're losing more fluid, more electrolytes, and we become dehydrated. You can experience fatigue, lightheadedness, nauseousness, headache, muscle cramping, lots of bad things. So we really want to encourage athletes to be drinking consistently over the course of the day. One of the easiest ways to teach an athlete to pay attention to their nutrition, to their hydration, is to monitor the color of their urine. They've all seen this probably at school, in a locker room or a training room. Our goal is pale yellow to clear. Typically, that's going to indicate hydrated. If their urine looks like apple juice or darker or something that just walks straight out of a juice bar, that means we need to drink more. What I love about this test, it's easy. It requires no money and nobody's help. It's something that they can pay attention to. So encouraging your athletes, pale yellow to clear, pale yellow to clear. When you wake up in the morning, you're going to be a little more dehydrated. After you've trained, you're going to be more dehydrated. If you're training twice a day, maybe they have school workouts in the morning from 8 to 10, and then they've got practice or a select club practice or an individual practice later in the day. They're going to be more dehydrated. So this is a good rule of thumb to teach them. My theory with hydration is drink early, drink often, and especially in these hot months, that's going to be key to really help athletes stay on top of their hydration. So when we think about tips to fueling all day long, we need athletes to eat regularly. You will always hear me call that athletes need a fuel schedule, and they need to be thinking, where am I going to eat today? So starting in the morning, eating a breakfast, or if it's an early morning workout, a pre-workout snack, then a breakfast, and then consistently fueling, whether they are, eating snacks throughout the day, having a good lunch during the school year, bringing their lunch or buying their lunch, obviously fueling consistently, and we'll dial in about what that looks like around training and competition in just a minute. Hydrating consistently. The thing about nutrition is you got to stay on top of it. It doesn't have to be extreme, but it does need to be consistent. And so really staying on top of consistent nutrition, consistent fueling, 80-20 rule is going to be key to not only performance and recovery, but to really helping your athletes feel good over the course of the day and have the energy that they need to do all the things, right? Go to school, go to their little tutoring, go to their extracurricular activities, play their sport, play in a tournament, and grow and develop. There's a lot going on for kids, and most of it all requires energy. So the better energy that we can give them through proper nutrition, the better they should do and the better that they should feel. So a few examples, starting with breakfast. These are some easy breakfasts. You're going to find that I'm a dietitian that doesn't love to cook. So if you even think I'm going to make you meal prep for 8 hours, I am not. We are all about easy. So trying to do easy things like egg muffin cups that you can make 30 minutes on a Sunday, like you make them with eggs, whatever, protein, cheese, veggies you like. Cook those in the oven for 20 minutes, and then you have fast protein every morning. One morning, throw it with a bagel and peanut butter. One morning, have those with a granola bar and a fruit and a glass of milk. Super easy. You're on the go, trail mix, banana, chocolate milk, out the door. These can be very easy breakfasts to help kids get in the carbohydrate, protein, healthy fat, and fluid that they need in the morning. These are some lunch ideas. So whether you are bringing your lunch could be during the school year, bringing it to school. Could also mean bringing it to a game, a tournament, a road trip, wherever you are, or buying it out. So, and bringing it technically could be at home too, or buying it out, but really helping athletes think, where am I going to get my whole grain? That's going to be my energy. Where am I going to get my protein? Is it turkey and cheese on a sandwich? Is it, chicken or pork in a Chipotle bowl? Is it the beef that's on a burger, but I'm pairing it with, fruit and milk? It can be a lot of different ways. Thinking of how they can get dairy. Dairy is going to provide them with calcium, vitamin D for bone development and growth, as well as additional high quality protein. Milk and chocolate milk are staples in school cafeterias. Even a lot of them can get it very easily, even in some of their like training room vending machines, the 7-Eleven, the grocery store, your house. Very easy ways to get in dairy, calcium, and vitamin D. And then fruits and vegetables, wherever we can get them in, we want to get them in. So the more color, the better you're going to do with getting vitamins, minerals, fiber, and all of those things into an athlete's day. I am a dietitian that loves snacks. In the world of sports nutrition, I am a big believer that snacks are the glue that holds the sports nutrition puzzle together. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner is not enough for an athlete. We need them fueling the in-between. That's what I always like to call it. Fuel the in-between, ideally with both carbohydrate and protein to give them energy, but sustained energy. So that could very easily be cheese and crackers. It could be yogurt, fruit, and granola. But if they're on the go, it could be beef jerky and a banana. It could be a protein bar and an apple. It could be a bag of trail mix and a fruit. These are just easy ways to think about fueling your athletes, getting them easy nutrition throughout the day so that they're well fueled, whether they're hanging out with their friends in the summer by the pool or whether it's during the school day and they're needing to fuel so that they have the energy that they need. So now trying to dial in around fueling training and then performance as well as recovery. So as a parent or coach, here's your time to chime in. What is your biggest question or concern when it comes to feeding your athlete before a workout or a game? I know someone already said them not wanting to eat before a workout or game. That's very, very common. If you have an athlete that runs track, God forbid, they don't want to eat any time before anything ever. Clint, can you feed in what else some of the other ones are saying?
I haven't come in yet, so still waiting.
Oh, I haven't come in yet. A lot of times what I hear parents tell me is like, well, when we're on the road, there's nowhere to go but to a fast food restaurant, or we're at the tournament and there's only concession stands or things like that. So I'd be interested to hear if there's any other ones.
Yeah, Amy, how often should they be eating something?
Okay, yes, every few hours. A few is different. I'd say every 2 to 4, depending on your athlete and how much nutrition that they need. If you have athletes that are trying to gain weight, gain lean muscle mass, and or have trouble maintaining their weight, I'm probably sticking more 2 to 3 hours because I'm trying to get them more nutrition consistently. And we can do a whole nother talk on that this year at some point in time on how to help athletes gain weight. But typically I'd say 2 to 4, depending on, after a snack, they might need to eat, 2 hours later, but after a bigger meal, they might have a little more time there. And any other ones that you see, Clint?
Yes. How far ahead to eat to not feel weighed down?
Thank you so much for leading me to my first slide in this section. Okay, we'll rock and roll. And then hopefully I think I'll answer some of your questions. So this is one of the hot topics that I always get asked. How long should I leave before eating and training? So I'm going to tell you what's perfect, and then I'm going to tell you how you mitigate not perfect, because it's rarely perfect except on a game or competition day. So typically in a perfect world, we would tell an athlete to eat a pre-workout or pre-game meal 3 to 4 hours before their training or event or their game, tournament, whatever it is. Typically, so that's designed so that we can give them a large enough meal or enough nutrition, think pasta, chicken, tomato sauce, green beans, roll, and fruit, and have that time to digest and then not feel like they're going to throw up when they get on the court or the field or wherever they are. The reality is that works fantastic on a game day, Potentially on a school day, if they have afternoon practice and lunch is their pre-workout meal, that might shake out okay. But a lot of days that's not the case. So I will say this, my rule of thumb is the closer the meal is to the workout, the easier to digest that meal needs to be. So let's say we only have like 2 hours or like an hour and a half to 2 hours. I'm probably going like sub sandwich, baked chips, or pretzels and a fruit. It's a little easier to digest. If we're talking about a snack, like maybe they don't get to eat a whole meal, or I'll talk about in the morning training in just a second, I'd say 10 to 45 minutes to get in some quick carbs or carbs and a little bit of protein for digestion. Obviously, some foods, quote unquote, sit a little heavier than others. Some are easier to digest. And so that's oftentimes right before a workout where we will use some of those quick carbs, like for quick energy. They're quicker to digest. And so they don't necessarily feel like they're sitting in an athlete's stomach. And let me clarify. Food is never just sitting in your stomach, but it can give you that illusion that it is. So I'll talk through in a minute a few what I call nutrient dense snacks, which are foods that have more calories per bite. So you don't have to take as many bites to get as much nutrition. And that can be a real key when we talk about having to eat closer to the workout or game and or tournaments where there is like back-to-back games or 30 minutes in between. I was a dancer growing up, but my sister was a high-level volleyball player, played in college. And she's only a year younger than I am, so I attended a lot of club volleyball games and tournaments. And, we'd be on one court over there, and the girl would be like, as they're moving down, 30 courts, changing, stripping down shirts, eating a granola bar, chugging Gatorade, all while walking just to go warm up again. So I get that that's the reality of the situation and what can we do in those windows. So we'll start in the morning. So obviously, if you have an athlete that trains in the morning, which they're probably all in school practices right now, training from like 8 to 10 or 9 to 11, and your athlete is probably getting up in just enough time to go to practice. During the school year, they could have even earlier practices. Athletes will forever tell me, I can't eat before a workout. I'm not hungry. I'm not thirsty. And I'm like, you don't want to run sprints, lift weights, or practice, but you do. The beauty of the body is you can train it to do anything. And if you can train it to run faster, jump higher, and lift heavier, you too can train it to eat a granola bar. Now, you might have to work at it, but you can do it. So even if it's an early morning workout, we want athletes to eat something because they have not eaten all night. And so we need to give them some fuel. And a lot of athletes will tell me, I'm fine. I feel fine during my workouts. And I'm like, right, but do you want to survive through your workout or do you want to thrive through your workout? No one gets better in a game. You get better at practice. Day in, day out, day in, day out. So we get all psyched up about a pregame meal. I'm a little more worried about the day in, the day out, the day in, the day out, because that's where they're really being able to really enhance and train and get better. So we want them to have something. If it is a lighter workout, lighter could be shorter or it could be just less intense. Typically a carbohydrate would work. So something like a banana, some dry cereal, a little bagel, granola, something like that would be fine. If we're talking about a more intense workout, more intense could be higher intensity. It could be longer in nature. Typically, if there's going to be weight training involved, I would recommend adding, a little bit of protein or healthy fat, simply to help stabilize their blood sugar so that they don't have energy and then come halting off. Your body uses carbohydrate really fast in the morning because you haven't eaten anything all night. You've all eaten a bowl of cereal before in the morning and wondering if you've ever eaten food like an hour and a half later. It's because your body uses carbohydrate so quickly. High intensity exercise uses carbohydrate very quickly. So more intensity or longer, harder workouts need more nutrition. So instead of maybe having a granola bar, we might say, let's have a protein bar. Instead of just having a banana, we might smear some peanut butter on that banana. Instead of just having some, dry cereal, I might be like, ooh, let's have some high protein granola that has carbs and protein. And so that can be a good way to help an athlete get some extra fuel. And then trying to get some form of hydration. Typically our recommendation is about 16 to 20 ounces before a workout. So in the morning, I'll encourage athletes, get up, drink some fluid. While you're changing your clothes, putting on your shoes, drink some fluid. You either have to walk, drive, or bike ride to your workout, drink some fluid. So ideally, we've gotten some in. If they eat something, they're more likely to drink something because it's going to make them thirsty. So that's another good way to think about getting this in. and I hear your athlete right now telling you, Mom, Dad, Coach, I don't feel hungry. I can't eat. I'm going to throw up. Start with 2 bites. 2 bites, half the protein bar. Buy protein bars that are really, really dense so you don't have to eat as much of them in order to be able to like have energy and then get to practice. But eating in the morning is going to be key. Then when we think more of a general, like pre-workout or pre-game meal, maybe that's having lunch and then your workouts in the afternoon. Maybe this is your pre-game meal that's 3 or 4 hours before game. Typically, we want this meal to be moderate in carbohydrate, so probably almost, third to half of a plate carbohydrate. We want it to have protein in it. We want it to have lower in fat and fiber. Hear me out. You can have some peanut butter or avocado or whatever. I mean, don't give them like gravy or something fried. That's going to sit heavier in their stomach. Same with fiber. Yes, you can have whole grains. Don't give them Brussels sprouts or cauliflower. That has the tendency to cause some GI distress. So easier to digest vegetables, carbs, protein, plenty of fluid. 16 to 20 ounces of water or a sports drink is going to be ideal. So these are 2 different plates that I'm going to show you that could show you how to shape your athlete's plate. So this would be like a moderate day of training, or I'm going to call it a normal day. So this is like we're going to practice on a normal day. It's a normal 2-hour practice or whatever. Nothing crazy, not 2-a-days, not a all-day basketball tournament, just a good old day. You'll see that the plate is divided into thirds, a third whole grain carbohydrate, a third protein, a third veggies. You'll see there's added fruit for additional carbohydrate, fluid, electrolytes. There's some fat on there, and then we have fluid. So this is how you could help think of like how you would shape your athlete's plate for a pre-workout, pre-game meal on a let's say workout, actually, not even game, on a normal day, or just how they might shape their plate regularly at their meals and snacks. Hard training or competition days. You're going to see that this plate has been reshaped. It is now half carbohydrate, a fourth protein, fourth veggies. We have added fruit, again, same, a little bit extra carbs. We have electrolytes, we have fluid. There's some extra fat. So the way I help athletes try to understand this is that if you are going to drive your car around more, you have to put more gas in it more often. Same thing with your body. If you're going to move it around more, you have to put more fuel in it more often, fuel, AKA food. And so when we're moving more, we need more carbohydrate to help fuel that activity. So when I'm training twice a day, when I have a tournament, when I have back-to-back games, this is going to be times where we want to incorporate more carbohydrate to help give the body the energy that it needs to get through all of that training or through those games. These are some examples of what that could look like. These are kind of some of my top 10 brown breakfast ideas that if you had to be on the go early in the morning, I won't go through each of them, but these are some ideas. We're going to give y'all a handout after that has all types of these examples on there, but it can be something simple of like peanut butter and banana rolled up in a tortilla. We've got another fruit with that, or an applesauce and a little bit of trail mix. It could be a protein bar and a banana and an applesauce. I mean, it can be very, very simple, but creative ways to help them get in something in the morning if they're in a hurry and on the go. If it's fueling like a competition or an early morning game as a part of a tournament, the athlete's got to get up and eat. We need some more substance. A granola bar is not going to do the trick. We're going to need a bagel with peanut butter and a banana and a sports drink, or some scrambled eggs and a bagel and fruit or something like that. So we want them to get up, and for sure, I'd say at least 2 hours before on a tournament day, which usually you have to migrate to the tournament, get there, set up, warm up. So it does make for more time, but really trying to make sure that we're fueling them and then getting them plenty of fluid, using the urine chart color to monitor their hydration status. When we talk about building pre-game menus, this is the way I like to do it. I give this to like booster clubs and coaches and operations directors to be like, here's what you should select when you're at the restaurant or planning a meal. So again, we're always trying to look for quality, high quality, complex carbohydrates. Protein could be really any of the above. Easy to digest vegetables that aren't going to be super high in fiber. And then typically I'm always going to recommend trying to have extra bread at a game, especially if you're serving it like catering style, buffet style. That way for athletes that need more carbs, they can get more carbs via breadstick, roll, cornbread, whatever it is. So if you're thinking, if you're a coach or a parent, you're the one in charge of planning the meals for your athlete game, this is kind of what you would kind of go by. And then this is what that might look like pieced together. So that could look like in the morning, a breakfast sandwich with Canadian bacon and cheese and egg paired with yogurt and fruit granola cups. You know, it could very easily look like whole grain waffles with peanut butter on it paired with scrambled eggs and a sports drink. Like it can look a lot of different ways. And then if we're talking about it as another meal, sub sandwich, you know, whether it's like pretzels or something salty, carby, and fruit. It can look very traditional: chicken, baked potato, green beans, and whole wheat rolls. There's lots of different ways you can plug in a pregame style meal based on what you have available, but this kind of gives you some options as to what that can look like. So now as we transition to talk about during workout, I would love to hear your thoughts. I love to ask parents this question about, do you think your kids should be drinking water, a sports drink? Are you worried about some of these products, and kind of what your take is on it? So Clint, I'm going to let you chime in on some of the hot topic answers I might get.
You got it.
And or the question could be like, do you know when to give your athlete these different drinks?
What do you think of coconut water?
So coconut water is very high in potassium. It is not my favorite as a sports drink because it doesn't have any salt. And I love it. They're like low sodium sports drink. I'm like, oxymoron. A sports drink should have three things: fluid, carbs, and sodium. Potassium too, but really sodium. So I think coconut water can be a great hydration product, but it's not a good right around hydration product, right around training hydration product.
Another comment: some sports drinks seem very high in sugar, all created equal. Assuming no. My husband likes her to drink Gatorade, but it has so much sugar. Similar energy drinks.
No on energy drinks. We don't want kids drinking energy drinks before. Okay, let me dial in on a few of those. So sports drink. So we have made the whole world freaked out about sugar and salt, which I get it. Most humans need to eat less sugar and less salt. But if you are an athlete, sugar and salt are your best friends during training. And so this is what I like to help parents understand. Let's say this is normal. Okay, so normal carbohydrate intake, normal sodium intake. If your child is out there sweating at a basketball game, in a volleyball tournament, or playing soccer, whatever, they are decreasing. They are sweating out fluid and sweating out sodium, potassium, and burning off sugar. So when I add that back in via sports drink, I'm simply replacing what was lost to try to get them back to normal. I'm not adding to, like the person sitting over there eating gummy worms and eating Doritos, right? I'm replacing. And so a sports drink was designed to provide carbohydrate. So Gatorade, for example, has traditional Gatorade. There's like 82 kinds now, but traditional Gatorade, and now Powerade is pretty much the same too, is 14 grams of carbohydrate per 8 ounces. That's the amount that we know does a good job of getting into the body. It can empty out of your gut fast enough so that it doesn't cause GI issues where water rushes in, it causes cramping and bloating. And it can get into your bloodstream so that your muscles can quickly take it up for energy. During exercise, your muscle cells are very sensitive. They'll just pull sugar out of the blood immediately to be able to keep exercise going. So during exercise, right before, during, and after, sports drinks are your friend because they're replacing what's being burned off via carbohydrate or sweat out via sodium, potassium, and fluid. Now, they're called sports drink. Drink while playing sport, not math drink, movie drink, TV drink, class drink. They're a sports drink. So I always tease people, don't get mad at the product because you're using the product wrong, right? So around sports drinks are great. Then, of course, I can hear everyone telling me, but there's G2 and G Fit and G Zero and Powerade Zero and this. So there's spaces for every one of these, right? So G2, for example, was designed to be the off the court, off the course, off the everything sports drink. So if you compare it to Gatorade, it's 1/3 of the sugar. but it has the exact same electrolytes. So it's designed to help you rehydrate with electrolytes, give a little bit of sugar. You go to like GFit G0, zero sugar, same electrolytes. So that would be like I'm sitting down and my athlete is watching a movie or they're doing math problems. Those would be times for those. So using the product in its appropriate and designed manner is where we do them. So yeah, a parent looks at a sports drink and goes, sugar, right. But when they're running up and down a court, they're burning so much sugar. All you're trying to do is replace what they're burning off. So I'll kind of dial in a little bit of that around hydration in general. So
You mean just
oh yeah,
one other quick question about additives in sports drinks.
additives like colors or
That's what comes to mind for me. I know my wife doesn't let my kids drink except for the certain one that doesn't have the red dye and that kind of thing.
and a lot of them now are obviously pulling that out. I think they all have that out by 2027. So typically in sports drinks, they're going to be carbohydrate, and the word carbohydrate is sugar. That word looks a lot of different ways. It can look like sucrose, fructose, dextrose, maltodextrose. Obviously sometimes high fructose corn syrup. I think you see that less and less. But you'll see all these different, if it's an ose, it's probably a sugar. If it ends in O, sucrose, lactose, galactose, all of those types of words are sugars. So typically gonna be sugars. You will see things like ascorbic acid or whatever. That's vitamin C. You'll see alpha tocopherol. That's vitamin E. So there are things that freak people out because they don't know what it is. And I'm like, that's vitamin. Or some things that obviously they'll, some products from a food science perspective have to have something that like emulsifies all these things together so that they don't separate. Sodium, potassium, trace minerals, you'll see those in there as well. Typically, a sports drink should have about 3 times the amount of sodium. 3 times sodium compared to like potassium, because the average person loses 3 times the amount of sodium in their sweat. And a salty sweater can actually lose even more of those. So like, I know Gatorade the most. Gatorade is like 110 milligrams of sodium, 35 milligrams of potassium for 8 ounces. You get into Gatorade Endurance, or you think Pedialyte or like Element or those different guys, they'll be way higher in sodium. So obviously if you have a salty sweater or an athlete that sweats tons and tons and tons, then that would be where you could incorporate some more of those higher sodium drinks. As far as like additives, most sports drinks don't just have like supplements necessarily added to them. Obviously, some are colors, some have used dyes. I think they will all be coming out of that very soon. So some of that is preference, right? It doesn't affect the nutrition of a product. It does affect, obviously, other things, but it doesn't necessarily affect the nutrition. So some of those things are going to be preference. Some people do not want their kid drinking anything that has an ounce of an artificial sweetener. Well, we know that artificial sweeteners, based on the FDA and research, are safe. If you don't want your kid to drink it, it's fine, like preference. But just understanding there's so many sports drinks on the market now. It's hard to know every single one of them, but hopefully that should give you a little bit of like guardrails to understand. And I'm happy to answer more specific questions on that. And when we think about where sports drinks come into play. So we want athletes drinking about 5 to 10 ounces of fluid every 20 minutes of activity. Basically boils down to about a bottle an hour, if you think about it like that. And so for the first hour, 60 to 90 minutes, if that's all they're going to be out there and they have fueled and hydrated, they're probably going to be okay with water. Hear me out. I love water. But water has no electrolytes, no carbohydrate, it's not a really great rehydrator, and sometimes it's not a great hydrator. Now, if you dump electrolytes in water, it can be more helpful. So I always tell athletes, if you're gonna be out there for an hour, you're probably gonna be fine. Parents working out, out, whatever, fine. But if you're going to be out there for hours, that is where we need to incorporate a sports drink that has carbohydrate and sodium and potassium. So typically our rule is if the workout's gonna be significantly over 90 minutes, and or if it's in a very hot and humid environment, and or like they're playing a game, then there's a 30-minute break, then they're playing another game, a sports drink is really going to be what helps them, I would say, the most. One of the biggest challenges with dehydration and even carbohydrate is once you get behind in your hydration, you ain't catching up. you're not catching up until you stop and you quit and you have time just to sit and rehydrate. And so I mentioned some of the really negative side effects of dehydration, and dehydration is not just fluid, it's also electrolytes. And so we want that fluid and electrolytes to be in there. So if it's a shorter workout, but it's hotter and humid outside, or your kid sweats a lot, I would put some electrolyte salt sticks or Noon tablets, or, there's so many different things that you can add to water now to give them. Maybe their workout's not long enough to demand a lot of extra carbohydrate or sugar, but they need the electrolyte. So that's where you can do that. So that's kind of where your judge is to think through. Can a kid drink a sports drink from minute one? Of course. Is it required if they have well fueled before? Maybe not. Think about those morning workouts I was talking about. Sometimes kids that don't want to eat a lot in the morning, well, a sports drink might be beneficial to give them a little extra carbohydrate going into a training session. So it often, the flavor and the salt also helps them drink more. And so that can be helpful. We all know, room temperature Gatorade tastes way better than maybe room temperature water, right? So those are just things to consider when you think about hydration throughout a workout. And then when we talk about fueling during those, and I would say this looks more, if it's like during the middle of a game, like legit just middle of the game, I go sports foods, like the energy chews or goos or, the sports jelly beans or whatever they are. But say it's a break, like I mentioned, 30 minutes in between a basketball tournament or volleyball games or whatever, then I would go with these, what I call nutrient dense foods that have more calories per bite. So like the peanut butter filled pretzels that have little salt pieces on it. Trail mix that's gonna maybe have some granola in it to give some more carbs. A few of the little like peanut butter crackers. If it's real quick and it's a fast turn and protein or anything like that doesn't sound great, I would go applesauce, fruit, dry cereal, dry granola. That is going to be ideal, or even a granola bar to help get them to the next. But if they need some substance, like I've seen, like in college sports, I mean, would practice kids for 2 hours and then take them to the weight room. I'm like, do you think you're going to get a good lift out of this kid? You're not. Just letting me, like, if you need to fuel them, give them a protein bar on their walk to the weight room. That way they have something to work off of. So having fuel sources available between games or between, intervals, if you have kids that, like, for example, that do like swim meets or track meets, same story. Like it's like nonstop, but stops. And so they may not want to eat in between, but like a little bit of trail mix and a banana, that can go a long way because it's dense. So those are just some ideas to think about. All of these things you can also have in a bag for a long time. They're shelf stable, which is key. Sometimes you don't have a cooler, the cooler gets hot, you can't find ice. These are things that can survive even if they get warm. So that can be ideal there too. But during a workout, main goal hydration. And then if it's going to be long, we really need to incorporate some of these snacks or at least sports foods during their training session, just to try to help kind of combat low energy. Then when we talk about post-workout, I like to say that recovery has 3 R's: replenish, rebuild, rehydrate. Replenish means, as I've been talking about, you need to replace your carbohydrate stores. Rebuild, protein, right, to help repair and resynthesize lean muscle mass. And then rehydrate, obviously, trying to drink to get back to that state of normal hydration. So you have this 2-hour window after a workout where basically your body just does a better job of digesting and absorbing carbohydrate and amino acids, which are the building blocks of protein. The body is a genius and it knows when it needs to recover, and the muscle cells specifically will just without even insulin present, will just soak up carbohydrate. Soak up is a weird word, but that's basically what happens. I tell athletes, think about putting a dry sponge in a puddle of water. What happens? Slurps it right up. What your muscle cells do to carbohydrate after a workout. So we want them to get nutrition in as soon as possible. We say within 45 minutes, the sooner, the better. Exercise causes breakdown. The fancy science word, catabolism. Amy's word, breakdown. And so you're in breakdown mode. When you eat or drink nutrition, it kicks you out of breakdown or catabolic mode, and it puts you into building or anabolic mode. We want to get there as soon as possible for an athlete. So trying to eat or drink something that has nutrition as soon as possible is going to be ideal for sure within 45 minutes, then following that up with another meal or snack. So typically we're talking quick digesting carbs and protein immediately, more normal meal or snack after. So immediate snack. I'm talking carbohydrate like the sugar or carbohydrate that you're going to find in milk or chocolate milk, or if we're making a smoothie with milk, Greek yogurt, and fruit, or honey or something like that, that's going to be the carbohydrate you would find in a sports drink. Or, people will see post-workout beverages and they're like, sugar. I'm like, I know, that was the point. They actually did that on purpose. You need sugar post-workout. You're replenishing your glycogen or your carbohydrate stores, and nothing replaces muscle carbohydrate, fancy science word, glycogen stores, except carbohydrate. So you have to get it in. So quick digesting carbs, and then typically 15 to 25 grams of high quality protein, high quality, complete, meaning it has all of the essential amino acids. Whey protein, which is what you find in milk, yogurt, in chocolate milk, and obviously what you find in quite a few of the ready to drink shakes on the market. All proteins can work. Whey protein is the highest in branched chain amino acids, and there is a branched chain amino acid called leucine. And leucine is like the light switch to muscle resynthesis. And so for forever, whey protein was what was in everything before every other protein powder got really excited and happy and showed up on the market. So different proteins can work, but that's why you see whey protein a lot. It's the highest in branched chain amino acids. It's the highest in leucine, and whey protein is the quickest digesting protein that there is. It's a milk protein. Then we want you in the final R, right? Replenish carbs, rebuild protein, rehydrate. So trying to get at least 16 to 24 ounces of fluid is going to be ideal. If your athlete weighs, which I doubt there's many football players, but you could have kids that play football. They tend to weigh, every once in a while you'll get like triathletes that will weigh pre and post exercise. If your kid has the ability to do it just a few times to see how many pounds they might lose in sweat during a workout or a game, could be ideal. Typically, we say 16 to 24 ounces per pound lost. The higher on the end if you're working out multiple times a day, trying to include sodium and potassium, but just trying to get that fluid in. Back to the urine chart, using that color of the urine chart to drink consistently until you get your urine color back down to a better color. So when we think of what some of those ideas might look like, I like to do it where we get all 3 R's in one, like a carbohydrate protein post-workout shake. That could be, a muscle milk that you buy. That could be a smoothie that you make that has frozen fruit and Greek yogurt and milk. It can have protein powder in it too, but it doesn't have to. It can be off-brand Greek yogurt. Chocolate milk, one of my favorites. Milk is 90% water. It has quite a bit of potassium, has a little bit of sodium. Chocolate has the sugar in it. What I love about this for kids, they like it. It's cheap, it's convenient, and it's everywhere, including the school cafeteria. So during school, early morning workouts, swinging through the cafeteria can be a great way to get some chocolate milk. It could also be milk and a fruit. It could obviously be a protein bar and a sports drink. So lots of ways that you can get that immediate snack in, but trying to get RRR, replenish, rebuild, rehydrate, carbs, protein, fluid. And then following it up with either, yes?
Getting into stuff that I love. Given just the sake of time, maybe we should give folks a chance to answer, ask any final Q&A, just because we're coming up on time. So I want to make sure.
Yep, I'm almost here. I'm almost to the end. Give me just a second. I'm going to take them to my fueling strategies. Hold your tight. Get your questions in the chat. Start asking Clint, and I'm going to take you through a few fueling schedule.
Thanks, Amy.
Yes, of course. So these are what some of those post-workout meals, they look a lot like pre-workout meals would look like. So these are, again, are just some examples. And then kind of walking you through some fueling schedules. So start dropping okay, this was my question I was going to ask you, but y'all can answer this in the chat as well. And then I'll show you my fueling schedules and we'll go to the questions. But thinking about how you keep your athlete on a consistent fuel schedule. So this is just showing you like what it might look like if your athlete was training early in the morning, having a pre-workout snack, hydrating, little chocolate milk, a breakfast, and then you'll see the parent that was asking me earlier about, or a coach, about eating every few hours. So this might look like if your child trains in the morning fueling schedule. If it's an afternoon fueling schedule, you can see it's a little different. Now we have the pre and the post workout in the afternoon right around the training session, dinner, and probably potentially a snack at nighttime, just so that you're able to give them some extra nutrition to continue recovering after that afternoon training session. 2-a-days, eating, part-time job. It doesn't have to be perfect. I need snacks consistently, even if they're just eating carb protein snacks throughout the day. The consistency of the fueling is key to try to help them stay on top of their nutrition throughout the day. And then if it's a game day where the game is at night, this will kind of show you, maybe they do a breakfast, shakeout workout, little snack, and then they're having potentially like their, 3 or 4 o'clock pregame meal, and then fueling consistently. Yes, they need to eat after. Yes, yes, yes. You have to eat after a game. I don't care how late it is. They've got to eat so that they can really enhance recovery there. So just kind of giving you some ideas of what that might look like. And then I am going to answer any questions. Real quick, I will tell you that in the Sports Nutrition Playbook, we do one-on-one nutrition counseling covered by insurance. And so what's really great about this is that the statistic is that 94% of people can see a registered dietitian for free on medical insurance. We take the 4 big ones: Aetna, Cigna, Blue Cross Blue Shield, United Healthcare. But this is a great opportunity for your athlete. We do all virtual nutrition counseling. All of my dietitians are sports dietitians. 8 of the 11 of them have worked at the college sports level, some of them the professional sports level as well. All of them high school, middle school, and all the things. So really able to help them with creating a very specialized plan to them, their training, their, food likes, dislikes, etc., what works with the rest of the family. So if you're interested, I'm gonna let Clint answer any questions, but here's our contact information, our website. You can get to, when you scan that to our QR code, or you scan the QR code to our website, which is thesportsnutritionplaybook.com. You'll see a button right at the front that says, I'm ready to meet with a dietitian. The steps are to fill out our insurance verification form. And then my billing team will verify your insurance. We do that for free. And we'll text and email you your coverage for nutrition services, as well as a booking link to book an appointment. And then if you want us to send the link to you, just text insurance to our phone number on the screen. And we actually text you the link to the insurance verification form. So with that being said, we would love to help you or your athletes. And, once we verify your family's insurance, that's usually what the whole family has. And it's a potential to really be able to see a dietitian for free. We have free resources, the Sports Nutrition Playbook. We have a podcast, a YouTube channel, and an Instagram, all under our name. And so free information to help you fuel your athletes, your kids, your coaches fueling your athletes. Okay, Clint, questions, go.
All right, we have a couple in here right now. One of them is from Jeremy.
Okay.
He's asking about ultra endurance events, and he finds that his stomach won't tolerate any gels or cubes.
Yeah.
He's switched to Infinity Go Far Water to keep him going. He says it works pretty well. Curious if you have any other recommendations.
Yeah, it's pretty individualized, I would say. You need to come see one of my dietitians. No, so you have to figure out what works, because, some people don't like goo, but they can do like the energy chews. In ultra endurance, you're needing to take in about 30 to 60 grams of carbohydrate an hour, which is a decent amount. So typically when you're out there for so long, I'll recommend people do a quicker digesting, like an applesauce, or, the energy chews or sports drink, or goos if you like them. If not, you don't have to. And then balance that out with like half a Clif Bar. It depends on what all kinds of endurance. If you are like triathleting or Ironmanning, then you can look at trying to fuel a little more on the bike, so you don't have to fuel as much on the run. Usually it's the jostling that's the problem. So I might try to feed a little more on the bike so that I kind of prepare you for the run. So it's very individualized. There's lots of things that we can do, but I might encourage you to check out one-on-one nutrition counseling, because a lot of it's playing around with the strategy behind how much carbs when, more solid food versus easy to digest sugars, etc.
Awesome. One question's come up a couple times is around picky eaters, and any recommendations you might have there.
Yes. So a few things. So kids especially tend to be rather picky. We know that the research suggests you got to offer things to kids like 10 different times before they really ever know if they like them. I would encourage you not to offer them the same way. So one of my theories with kids that don't like certain foods is to learn to like them with foods you already like. So for example, you hate broccoli, but you love rice and cheese. Maybe you start with rice and cheese casserole with a little bit of broccoli. And then you gradually add a little bit of broccoli and gradually add, etc. Or maybe you start, your kid hates cauliflower, but you'll start with a rice bowl, and then it's like a little bit of rice and a little bit of cauliflower, things like that. So a lot of it is introducing it in different ways, and reintroducing it over and over again. I did a podcast on this. I can't remember exactly. It was this year, I think, on picky eaters. We can also go through and really help with kind of what they will eat. I mean, some of it is just they're going to be picky for a period of time. They'll grow out of it. Making sure it's not any form of food intolerance or allergy is important. It's kids that don't want to eat something because it doesn't make them feel good. There's at some point where we need the kid to just be on board. So some of it's behavior change. So those are some of the things that you can start to do, offering foods like with foods they already like to acquire the flavor. But again, it's something that I do have a podcast on it. It was on picky eaters. And so that's something you can listen to for free, or us kind of dialing in on more of a meal plan that trying to get your child to buy into something, what they will do, and then kind of empowering them to help us figure out what that is. Sometimes is one of the best strategies, and it not being their mom or their dad. The third party person tends to work. The mom will be like, I say that all the time. I'm like, I know, I'm just not their mom. So that's another piece of that sometimes.
Another question, Amy, if evening practice is right before bedtime, is it okay to skip the post-workout snack, assuming they had a full dinner, though, right before the workout?
Nope, not at all. You must eat after. I don't care what they ate earlier in the day. Your body it produces certain hormones. They're catabolic hormones. It produces when you're exercising. Those just keep on getting produced until you eat or drink something that has nutrition. So what I would tell you to do there is after, even if they had a full dinner afterwards, I would do a beverage. I would do chocolate milk. I would do a smoothie. It doesn't have to be a whole nother meal, but something that has carbs and protein. It is required for recovery. If not, your kid, you might as well just send your kid to bed, letting them burn muscle all night, because that's what happens. The body will continue to break down lean muscle mass for amino acids. So no, I don't care what time it is. They got to eat or drink something. Doesn't have to be massive, but they've got to get carbs and protein in and fluid.
We have a question about a basketball player with an iron deficiency who has prescribed supplements, but wondering if there's anything that he or she should eat before game day to help increase energy.
Iron is not something that changes overnight, so that won't really help. It takes about 3 months to change your iron levels, because iron is the center of hemoglobin, or red blood cells, and your red blood cells live for about 3 months. So if an athlete has a low iron or a low ferritin level, ferritin is stored iron in the blood. Even if they start taking iron tomorrow, unfortunately, it's not going to help them. It will eventually start, but it can take 2 to 3 months before they see a pretty dramatic increase in energy. From a food standpoint, you can obviously start eating more iron-rich foods, beef, chicken, eggs, full eggs. You can use plant-based iron. Plant-based iron is not near as well absorbed. So like beans, peanut butter, spinach, it has it in there, but it's not near as well absorbed. It can be better absorbed when consumed with vitamin C. So whether that's a vitamin C supplement, orange juice, something to that effect. But if they're taking a supplement, I would always encourage take an iron supplement with vitamin C. So they either need to wash it down with orange juice, or they actually need to take vitamin C, because vitamin C enhances the absorption of iron. So trying to include iron-rich foods is important. From an energy perspective, if they have iron deficiency anemia, I would say you're focusing on sleeping more and carb protein and trying to get them what they can, but it's really going to take the time of getting their iron. And if you're a parent and you have a kid that you think, oh, why is my kid so tired? Especially female starting menstrual cycle, get their iron levels checked, but get their ferritin levels checked. Most doctors are not even remotely thinking to run a ferritin, and it's not on a normal lab draw. So I would say get your ferritin. Ferritin is stored iron in the blood. Ferritin will deplete before iron depletes. So that's important. And then if you play, obviously this group is going to have a lot of volleyball and basketball, especially during the winter months. If you notice a lot of fatigue, their indoor sports, I would get a vitamin D light dog, because vitamin D can also, vitamin D deficiency can also manifest itself in fatigue. And if you have a deficiency, you're going to have to megadose to get it up. Taking a normal dose won't help. So it's a long answer for that, but that was the answer.
All right, I've got one more here we're going to squeeze in from earlier. Daryl is asking, going back to sports drinks, if you have any thoughts on DIY concoctions like mixing salt, OJ, and water.
I just did a satellite media tour on this as well. Yeah. So I actually made orange juice things, 100% orange juice. We did 8 ounces of orange juice, 8 ounces of water, pinch of salt. So as long as you can make it taste good, orange juice, 8 ounces of orange juice has 10% of your daily potassium needs. So you don't really need to add potassium. The key there would be the salt that you want to get in. So just adding a pinch of salt. But yeah, if you want to make something like that, kids like it's pretty easy and it tastes good. It kind of tastes just like watered down orange juice, because your base orange juice naturally, I think it has around 26 to 28 grams of carbohydrate per 8 ounces, which if you remember, I said Gatorade has 14 grams. So you want to dilute that down a little bit, because what happens is if you put too much sugar in your gut, similar to what Mr. Ultra Endurance said, water rushes in to try to dilute it. And that's where they'll get that bloating, cramping, diarrhea, bad things. So that's why we don't want to go a lot higher than 14 grams of carbohydrate per 8 ounces. So yes, the orange juice, when you add the water, it dilutes that down a little bit. And then the salt is obviously adding the sodium that they would be sweating out. So can totally DIY it.
Awesome. Hey, thank you so much, Amy. Thank you everyone for joining. I think sorry I went a few minutes over, but very valuable information. There's a lot. We will have a recording of this podcast for you guys or this webinar for you guys to listen to as well. And like Amy said, tons of great resources on her webpage, with podcasts and YouTube videos. Start with something. You're not going to correct everything overnight. Sometimes it can feel overwhelming, especially if the kids aren't complying. But just start with something. Maybe just focus on your breakfast intake, or focus on your post-recovery meal or something, right? Just change one thing at a time. Something I loved about what Amy said was we can train our bodies to be bigger, stronger, faster. We can also train our bodies to fuel appropriately and eat and hydrate. So work on something. Hopefully there was something helpful that you could take away from this. You all receive a survey in a couple days. We'd love for you to fill it out. It just gives us valuable feedback on how we can improve and bring more highly specialized experts to you all, and get that information to you. Um, in addition, our next webinar will be July 17th at 8 p.m. It'll be Elliot Cox. Some of you may have heard his initial presentation to us, to the parents and coaches. This one will be specifically for athletes. So we're gonna target this one and get as many athletes on the Zoom as we possibly can. We'll work with coaches and staff on creating a time slot during practice to get the athletes on. We want them to hear specifically from him on optimizing mental performance. So once again, thank you so much. If you have any feedback, questions, Amy left her information. We will be sending you a one pager that has a lot, or couple pager, I guess I should say, that has a lot of this information, as well as Amy's contact information and how to get a hold of her. There's our information down at the bottom if you do have any questions or comments or concerns or feedback for us. We really appreciate you joining on. Thank you again, Amy, for bringing us this great
Thanks for
information.
having me.
And everyone have a great evening.
Thanks, Amy. Thanks, everyone.